Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to give you guys my full review, the digitally digested segment, for the Sony FDA-EV1S. Now the EV1S is the electronic viewfinder designed for the NEX5N. Of course, because it is compatible with any camera that has the second gen smart accessory terminal, it's also compatible with the 5R and the F3. Unfortunately, the NEX3N, the latest addition to the NEX family, does not have the terminal. Maybe it's a sign that they're doing away with it. Either way, it does at least get the benefit of having a built-in flash, which this camera lacks. The NEX6, on the other hand, taking a step up in price point, does give you the added benefit of having a built-in flash as well as a built-in electronic viewfinder, the same one that you're looking at here that is modular. And there are some advantages to having an electronic viewfinder be outside of the body, despite the fact that many people may see it as being cumbersome and simply an inferior option to having it already in the body like we have with the NEX6 and 7. But for those of you who are interested in whether or not this accessory is worth the extra money, this is what I can tell you. When it originally launched at $350, it was definitely out of reach for most of the users who were buying into an NEX5N, just because the 5N in itself was not a very expensive camera, and the whole idea of bringing on a 350 plus tax in most cases accessory was really, I think, out of the question for the average 5N owner. However, with the course of aging and just the product cycle, which we have new bodies like the 5R we're looking at here. However, they have not updated this accessory, and so the pricing does fluctuate. Right now, it is pretty solid at over $300 US, and that's in the month of July 2013. But not too many months back, I did see it as low as around $200. So the price certainly does fluctuate heavily. But here's what I can tell you: whether you can pallet that $200 price or the much higher $300 plus price really is irrelevant when it comes to just whether or not it changes the entire experience of using a camera like the 5N, 5R, or F3. And the fact of the matter is that this viewfinder turns this camera, in my opinion, into a completely, really the word is compromise-free digital SLR replacement. Those of you who watch my reviews of NEX cameras already know how fond I am of their performance in their form factor. They are as close to as a compromise-free digital SLR in your pocket as you can get. Granted, the RX100 and RX1 really own that space right now. Nothing else out there competes with those devices, those cameras. But when it comes to looking for digital SLR quality in your pocket, you've got it with cameras like the two I have here. The big feature missing, though, from something like the 5N, 5R, or F3 is that built-in viewfinder. And this is the same one you're going to find in the NEX6 and 7, so in terms of quality, one for one. Also, you have the ability to actually articulate the viewfinder so that you don't have to contort your body to frame a shot, which I think is a big advantage for just about every user in the marketplace. I don't think anyone could dislike that feature. It also has the same exact built-in sensor in order to determine whether or not you are using the electronic viewfinder or relying on the LCD screen for framing. So it will automatically switch back and forth in order to preserve battery life. That's another great feature that is found in the NEX6 and 7, and fortunately enough is included here. And that's part of the reason that this is such an expensive accessory. It's because it really does live up to the exact same experience you've got with the built-in solutions. Of course, the biggest problem you're going to have is if you don't want to carry an extra accessory, because that's where, unfortunately, you are making a compromise. This is external. It does need to be mounted on that second generation smart accessory terminal, which, quite frankly, may not even exist on the next generation of NEX cameras in this exact same line. In fact, I think almost all of Sony's cameras these days are switching to that multi-interface shoe that you see that I just pinkied over there on the NEX6. And we see that across the the brand new RX100 Mark II, the HX50V, the RX1, the RX1R. I don't think this is coincidental. I think Sony is trying to make things better for the consumer by standardizing the accessory shoe in their product line at the very least, something that they haven't done in the past. So this may be the last generation of this viewfinder. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm doing a follow-up on this, is because I do anticipate this is going to drop in price over the coming months as new cameras get launched by Sony, especially with the launch of the NEX7 successor. I think we're just going to see more and more sales on these cameras because, quite frankly, they're popular to begin with, and right now they haven't refreshed the lineup, and it's definitely imminent in my opinion. So whether you're shooting indoors or bright light, or outdoors in bright light, which is obviously a better environment for when you're going to need this, because I can tell you right now, when you take a camera like this out into bright light without any type of shade, without an electronic viewfinder, it unfortunately ends up feeling like you're shooting with a point and shoot camera rather than a digital SLR. And that's in the sense that you're limited by what you can see. And if you can't frame your shots, well, you really don't know what you're going to end up with. The good news is when you use this viewfinder, you actually have the exact same feel, performance, everything you'd expect from a digital SLR. In fact, I personally prefer it more than the built-in viewfinder found on the NEX6 and 7, not only because of, as I mentioned, the articulating feature is great, but also because it allows you to use whichever eye suits you best. Some people are stronger in their left or right eye, and clearly the NEX6 is really just for people who are stronger in their right. And if you're stronger in your left eye, you're going to end up pressing your face against the screen all day. Here, that doesn't have to happen to anybody, which I think is a pro. Obviously, the numbers are not in favor of the righty versus lefty argument, so that's not what I'm here to really tell you guys about, but it is another noteworthy thing that I have to make you aware of, because after all, that's what my videos here are all about. In terms of actual performance, as I've mentioned, it's one for one with the viewfinder you're going to find there, except it's actually flexible. Now, the downside of having an external viewfinder is that it can break off. If you get lazy and you don't want to remove it, as Sony suggests throughout every piece of documentation. I mean, literally, if you go back to my unboxing, you'll see there were like 3 stickers saying, no, 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 do not leave this attached when you put it in your bag or in any case that you stow your camera. That's simply because the terminal accessory here, even when it's screwed in as tightly as you can get it, you see it still has some play, which clearly translates to the ability to be quite easily snapped off. Now, generally, I have to admit, I've been leaving it attached, and that's not a good idea. I don't recommend it for most of you out there, simply because if you're not really, really careful, odds are Sony's right and it's going to break off. So for that reason, I recommend if you do end up purchasing it, listen to Sony, take it off when the camera's not in use. In terms of battery life, what kind of hit are you going to see? Because after all, this is powered by the battery on the camera. In my experience, not much, and that's because really it's offset by the fact that this does have that sensor in order to switch from the LCD screen. In fact, in many cases, if you stick to using the electronic viewfinder, I think you'll actually get comparable, if not better, battery life out of any of the compatible models that accept this electronic viewfinder. Again, you do need to have that second-gen smart accessory terminal. In terms of what the actual packaging looks like, that's the logo on the actual box right there, upper right-hand corner. And really, it's just the second gen. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm not sure that there even will be a third gen, and that's why I'm addressing this. But as far as it goes right now, if you're looking, in my opinion, to get one of the most flexible budget systems out there, you're looking at it right here with the 5R combined with the EV1S. And that's, of course, again, if you pick up the EV1S on a discounted price, a good sale, because otherwise purchasing, even with the 5R sales that are going on now, because I know the 5R has dipped body alone, you can pick it up for roughly $500 or maybe even less in the future here in the next month or so. So the 5R has become a very nice value. With the viewfinder, though, it's tough to tell you to go with this unless you must have the modular design and really like the idea of being able to lose the viewfinder when you don't need it. because the NEX6 right now, in terms of pricing, because of that discount, they're very, very close in price once you add this viewfinder. Now, traditionally in the past, they were not close in price, so it would be a lot easier to tell you guys, go ahead and pick up the combo on the right, because the 6 and 7 were still at least $100 beyond what this combination would cost. Now, by this combination, I'm not talking about the included kit lens here, because still here in the US, the NEX5R is still coming with the traditional 18 to 50, not the, or excuse me, 55, not the 16 to 50 power zoom that you're looking at here, which comes with the NEX6. Of course, overseas, the kit with the power zoom has been available for quite some time now. So hopefully, eventually, that will be part of Sony's refresh. But for the time being, I'm only referring to the actual body, because right now that's what can be had for $500. If you're looking to get a kit, you're still looking at roughly around $50 to $100 more. So that's where you're coming down to only about a $100 to $150 difference, because the NEX6 with the power kit lens right now is retailing for $750. On a good sale, you might find it for $700. Open box, who knows? But as it stands, as I mentioned, the price gap is just too narrow between the cameras body to body or even kit to kit for me to tell you that you should go ahead and seek out the old EV1S. However, if you already own the 5N, plan on sticking with it, which quite frankly, the 5N is still one of the best NEX cameras ever made. In fact, in my opinion, it's where it all began. Granted, both of these build upon it. The 7 has the best sensor, in my opinion. Simply, yes, because of that extra megapixel count. If you're looking to be able to get that extra photo within the photo and really be able to crop, it certainly grants you that. No other NEX model does. But what you're looking at here is still really, really good, feature-rich, quality photographic set of tools in both of these cameras. Both Wi-Fi capable. Obviously, you've got the touchscreen in the 5R that's vacant from the 6. The 6 is really aimed more at giving the amateur everything they need in one package, whereas the 5R is looking to get a bit of both markets, the amateur enthusiast as well as the regular consumer who wants something that's going to shoot better than a traditional point and shoot or their bulky older digital SLR, or even a current one that they're looking at in the same price point. So look, I hope I rounded things out for you guys. I know the comparison really maybe isn't what everyone was looking for, but I know that if I was in the market right now looking at this viewfinder, I would certainly be asking myself, how much is my entire kit worth, as opposed to moving to something built in, as long, again, as you aren't put off by the fact of the actual placement of the viewfinder on the NEX6, which I think for most users is irrelevant. The articulation is a great thing, but if this breaks off, it's certainly going to be a nightmare. With that said, I also want to show you guys the actual process of removing it. So basically, you're just going to lift it up. Right there, you see the actual screw that mounts it onto the terminal port. Obviously, you go left in order to loosen it, and just like that, it comes off. So really easy. That is that smart accessory terminal. This is the second gen. The first gen was on the original NEXs, and that was phased out. That's part of the reason I wouldn't be surprised if we see a third gen being, as I mentioned, not really a third gen, but just a standardized, the new multi-interface shoe that Sony's using on everything. But overall, really like this accessory. I do think it's worth the money if the price is right. If you can get this for around $200, it will turn your camera into a completely different device, one that I think will basically be able to take on just about anything in the marketplace. If we're talking about the 5R, 5N, as long as you're under that $1,000 price point, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better experience in a smaller form factor and at a better price. So Sony doing a nice job here. I really do like this viewfinder. However, if you can pick up the NEX6 and have taken in everything that I've mentioned into account, then I think the 6 is a better buy if you don't care about the flexibility that's offered in the 5R. I think a lot of people out there do really like having the touch screen and also the ability to do the self-framing on the LCD. That's something that can't be done with the NEX6, so there's something to be said for that. Also, no self-framing if this is mounted. Keep that in mind. So Even though you may have a lot of the features that will be on the NEX7N in a package like this, as long as this is mounted, the electronic viewfinder, you will not be able to do any self-portraits because it does actually block it. And of course, this is the included pouch for that pricey $350 original retail. I hope this has covered just about everything you guys need to know about whether or not the FDA EV1S is right for you for your compatible NEX mirrorless interchangeable lens camera. Clearly, I've repeated over and over again, the NEX6 right now is the better value, but in my opinion, if you do have one of these cameras, obviously the better value is just to pick up the EV1S. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.